Welcome back, beautiful people. If you're here for stories that make you think, make you feel, and make you question everything you thought you knew about love and lies, you're in the right place. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Comments are wide open. Because this one is different. This is about two people who meet in the worst possible circumstances, who lie to each other from the very first moment, and who fall in love anyway. Let's go. Session 1. Dr. Grace Okonkwo's office is on the third floor of a building in Gangnam. Small, private, decorated in soft greens and whites that are supposed to feel calming. Grace is reviewing her notes when her 2 p.m. appointment arrives. Kwon Tae-min. He's 15 minutes early, sits in the waiting room with perfect posture, wearing an expensive suit, or looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Grace watches him through the small window in her office door for 30 seconds before opening it. Mr. Kwon? He looks up, stands, extends his hand. Dr. Okonkwo. His grip is firm, professional. His Korean is perfect, but when he speaks English, which Grace has requested for all sessions, there's the faintest trace of an American accent. Educated abroad, probably. Please come in. He follows her into the office, sits in the chair she indicates, not the couch. Nobody ever chooses the couch on the first session. Grace sits across from him, notepad in her lap, pen ready. So, she says, you're here because of a court order? Yes, 12 weeks, 1 session per week. Our anger management focus. That's what the judge said. And how do you feel about that? Taemin's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in his eyes. Amusement, maybe. Or assessment. I think, he says carefully, that the judge believes I have anger issues that need to be addressed through professional intervention. And what do you think? I think I made a mistake, and I'm paying for it. Grace makes a note. Not because the answer is particularly revealing. It's what 90% of court-ordered patients say, but because she needs to look occupied while she studies him. Kwon Tae-min is not what she expected. Prosecutor Kim had described him as volatile, dangerous, the kind of man who solves problems with violence. The man sitting across from her is calm, controlled, every movement deliberate, every word measured. He's either very good at hiding who he really is, or Prosecutor Kim was wrong. Tell me about the incident, Grace says. I was at a bar in Itaewon. Another man made a comment about my family. I responded physically. Security footage shows me throwing the first punch. Why did you respond physically? Because he insulted my family. And that justifies violence? No. Taemin meets her eyes. But it explains it. Grace writes that down. It's a good answer, self-aware without being defensive. Do you think you have anger issues, Mr. Kwon? Call me Tae-min. Do you think you have anger issues, Tae-min? A pause. He looks at her like he's deciding how honest to be. I think, he says slowly, that I've been angry for a very long time, and I've gotten very good at hiding it. Until I don't. It's the first real thing he's said. Grace leans forward slightly. What are you angry about? Taemin's jaw tightens, just for a moment. That's a longer conversation, he says. We have 11 more sessions. Then maybe we'll get there. After the session ends, Grace sits alone in her office and reviews her notes. Then she picks up her phone and calls Prosecutor Kim. How did it go? He asks immediately. First session, establishing rapport. Did he say anything useful? He acknowledged having anger issues, long-term, deeply rooted. That's not a confession, Dr. Okonkwo. It's session 1, Prosecutor Kim. Trust the process. A pause on the line. You have 11 more weeks, Kim says. After that, we move forward with or without a confession. Make it count. He hangs up. Grace sets down the phone and stares at the wall. She's a therapist, a good one. She went into this field because she believes people can change, that everyone deserves a chance at healing. But she's also doing this for her brother, Kofi, 22 years old, killed in a gang shooting in South London 4 years ago. Wrong place, wrong time, caught in crossfire between two groups who saw him as collateral damage. The men who killed him never went to prison. Not enough evidence. When Prosecutor Kim approached her 6 weeks ago and asked if she'd be willing to consult on a case involving organized crime, Grace had said yes without thinking. When he explained what he really wanted, undercover work, extracting a confession, violating doctor-patient confidentiality in ways that would end her career if anyone found out, she should have said no. But he'd said, "The Kwon family has hurt hundreds of people. They'll hurt hundreds more. You have a chance to stop them." And Grace, thinking about Kofi, had agreed. Now, sitting in her office after meeting Kwon Tae-min, she wonders if she made a mistake. Because the man she just met didn't seem like a monster. He seemed like someone who was tired. Session 2, Tae-min arrives on time. He's wearing a different suit, still expensive, still perfectly tailored. But this time, no tie. Small detail. But Grace notices. "How was your week?" she asks. "Busy. Work?" "Yes." "What do you do?" "I run a tech company, software development, AI applications." Grace knows this is a lie, or at least a half-truth. The Kwon family does own a tech company, a legitimate front for less legitimate operations, but she can't call him on it without revealing she knows more than she should. "Stressful?" she asks instead. Sometimes." "Tell me about the stress." Tae-min leans back in his chair, studies her for a moment. "You ask a lot of questions, Dr. Okonkwo." "That's my job." "Is it? Or is the job listening?" Grace smiles. "Both. But I find questions help people find their own answers. And what answer are you hoping I'll find?" "I'm hoping you'll find whatever you need to stop punching people in bars." Tae-min laughs. It's unexpected, a genuine, unguarded sound that transforms his face completely. "Fair enough," he says. They spend the rest of the session talking about stress management techniques, breathing exercises, cognitive reframing, the kind of standard therapy tools Grace has taught 100 times. But halfway through, Tae-min says something that stops her. "My father died 2 years ago," he says. "And ever since, I've been trying to fix everything he broke, but the harder I try, the more I realize I can't fix it alone." Grace sets down her pen. "What did he break?" Tae-min looks at her, really looks, like he's trying to decide if she's someone he can trust. "Everything," he says quietly. Session 3. They talk about fathers. Grace tells him about hers. A doctor in Lagos who moved the family to London when Grace was 7, who worked impossible hours at an NHS hospital, who died of a heart attack when she was 19. "He taught me that healing was the highest calling," Grace says. "That if you could help someone, you had an obligation to try." Tae-min listens with an intensity that makes her skin warm. "My father taught me the opposite," he says. "He taught me that power was the highest calling. That if you could control something, you had an obligation to take it." "Do you believe that?" "I used to." "What changed?" Tae-min is quiet for a long time. "I realized power doesn't mean anything if you're alone," he says finally. "And I've been alone for a very long time." Grace's heart does something complicated. She tells herself it's professional empathy, nothing more. But that night, lying in bed in her small apartment in Mapogu, she thinks about the way Tae-min's voice cracked when he said alone. And she wonders who this man really is. Session 4. Tae-min brings coffee. "I remembered you drink Americanos," he says, handing her a cup from the cafe downstairs. It's a small gesture. Thoughtful. The kind of thing that shouldn't mean anything. But Grace finds herself smiling as she takes it. "Thank you. You're welcome." They talk about anger again. About the moment in the bar. What triggered it? "He said my father was a criminal," Tae-min says. "That the Kwon family built its fortune on blood. And that made you angry because it's true." The admission hangs in the air. Grace's pulse quickens. This is it. The opening. "Your father was involved in criminal activity?" she asks carefully. Tae-min looks at her. There's something in his eyes. A challenge, maybe. Or a test. "Yes. And you knew?" "Not when I was young, but later. Yes." How did that make you feel? Angry, ashamed, trapped. Trapped? Because I inherited everything. The business, the family, the legacy. His hands tighten on the arms of the chair, and I can't walk away from it without destroying people who depend on me. Grace leans forward. What people? Employees. Family members who had nothing to do with my father's decisions. People who would lose everything if I just... He stops, takes a breath. If I just burned it all down. This is more than Grace expected. This is a confession, not of current crimes, but of complicity, of knowledge. Prosecutor Kim could use this, but Grace finds herself not wanting to report it, because Kwon Tae-min sounds like someone trying to do the right thing in an impossible situation. And that's not what she's supposed to find. Session 5. Grace dreams about Tae-min. It's unprofessional, inappropriate. A clear sign she's losing objectivity. She wakes up at 4 a.m., heart racing, and stares at the ceiling for an hour. When he arrives for session 5, she's prepared to be more distant, more clinical. But then he sits down and says, "I've been thinking about something you said last week." "What's that?" "That healing is the highest calling." He pauses. "Do you think people like me can be healed? People like you? People who've done terrible things, who've made choices they can't take back?" Grace's chest tightens. "Yes," she says, "I believe anyone can heal, if they're willing to do the work." "And if the work requires giving up everything? Then you have to decide what everything is worth." Tae-min looks at her with an expression that's equal parts hope and despair. "What if I told you," he says slowly, "that I've been trying to give it up? That for the last 18 months I've been trying to extract myself from my family's business, to go legitimate." Grace's breath catches. This is the confession Prosecutor Kim wants. Admission of criminal involvement. Ongoing operations, knowledge of illegal activity, but it's also something else. It's a man asking for help. "Tell me more," Grace says. And Tae-min does. Sessions 6 through 8. Over the next 3 weeks, Tae-min tells Grace everything. Not the specific details, not the evidence prosecutors would need, but the shape of it, the weight of it, the Kwon family's operations, the money laundering, the illegal gambling networks, the way his father built an empire on fear and violence, and the way Tae-min has been trying to dismantle it. "I can't do it quickly," he says during session 7. "If I shut everything down at once, people get hurt. Employees lose jobs, partners retaliate, my sister becomes a target." "Your sister?" "Min Ah. She's in law school. She wants nothing to do with the family business." I'm trying to keep her separate," Grace makes a note. "Not for the prosecutors, for herself. Because every week Kwon Tae-min becomes more human, and every week Grace falls a little bit more." Session 9. Tae-min asks her a personal question. "Why Seoul?" he says. "You're British. Nigerian heritage? You could work anywhere. Why Korea?" Grace considers lying, but something about the way he's looking at her, open, genuinely curious, makes her tell the truth. "My brother died," she says. "Gang violence in London, 4 years ago." Tae-min goes very still. "I'm sorry." "Thank you." "Is that why you do this work? Anger management? Trauma therapy?" "Yes." "Because you think you can save people like the ones who killed him?" Grace meets his eyes. "Because I think if someone had helped them before they became killers, my brother might still be alive." The silence that follows is the heaviest thing Grace has ever sat inside. Then Tae-min says very quietly, "You're extraordinary." The words land like a confession. Grace's pulse hammers. "That's not appropriate, Mr. Kwon." "Tae-min, and I know. I'm sorry." He doesn't look sorry. He looks honest. But it's true. Session 10. Prosecutor Kim calls Grace into his office. "We're 2 weeks from the end of therapy," he says. "What do you have?" Grace hands over her notes. Sanitized. Vague. Nothing that directly incriminates Tae-min. Kim reads them. His expression darkens. "This is useless, Dr. Okonkwo." He's made progress. He's acknowledged his family's criminal past. He's expressed desire to reform. I don't need desire to reform. I need evidence of active criminal operations. I'm a therapist, not an interrogator. You're a consultant on a criminal case. Act like it. Kim leans forward. Next session, push harder, get details, names, locations, operations that are currently active. That would violate doctor-patient confidentiality. There is no doctor-patient confidentiality in this arrangement. You're working for the prosecutor's office. The privilege doesn't apply. Grace stares at him. You told me this was consultation. You never said... I'm saying it now. Get me evidence, Dr. Okonkwo, or I'll find someone who will. Session 11. Grace sits across from Tae-min and tries to find the words. He notices immediately. What's wrong? He asks. Nothing. You're a terrible liar. Grace laughs despite herself. Occupational hazard. Talk to me. And here's the moment, the choice. Grace could push. Ask the questions Prosecutor Kim wants. Extract the evidence. Complete her mission. Or she could tell the truth. I need to be honest with you about something, she says. Tae-min goes very still. I'm listening. Grace takes a breath. I'm not just your therapist. His expression doesn't change, but his hands tighten on the armrests. I know, he says quietly. The words hit like a physical blow. You know? I've known since session 3. Grace's world tilts. How? Because I'm not just your patient. Tae-min stands, walks to the window, stands with his back to her. I was sent here to find out what the prosecutors know. You were sent here to extract a confession from me. We've both been lying from the beginning. Grace can't breathe. You knew I was working for Prosecutor Kim? Yes. And you came anyway? Yes. Why? Tae-min turns. His eyes are dark, raw, absolutely honest. Because after 5 sessions, I realized I didn't care anymore. I wasn't coming here for the prosecution. I was coming here for you. Hold on. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Comment. Because what happens next changes everything. Grace stands. Her hands are shaking. Her heart is racing. Every professional instinct she has is screaming. We can't do this, she says. I know. You're my patient. I'm supposed to... I know. This is the most unethical... I know. Tae-min crosses the room, stops in front of her, close enough that she can smell his cologne, see the exhaustion in his eyes. But I'm done lying, he says. I've been lying for 2 years, to my family, to prosecutors, to myself. And I don't want to lie to you anymore. Tae-min, I'm in love with you, Grace. The words hang in the air between them. Grace closes her eyes. You can't be. Why not? Because I was sent here to destroy you. Because I've been reporting every word you say to Prosecutor Kim. Because this entire thing is... I don't care. She opens her eyes. You should. Maybe. But I don't. He reaches up, cups her face in one hand. I came to therapy expecting a weapon. I found someone who actually saw me, who listened, who made me want to be better. I'm not who you think I am. Yes, you are. You're exactly who I think you are. Someone trying to do the right thing in an impossible situation. Same as me. Grace's resolve cracks. I can't. Then don't. Just tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you don't feel this too, and I'll walk away. Complete my last session next week. Disappear. You'll never see me again. He's giving her an out. A clean escape from the most complicated situation of her life. Grace looks at him. This man who's been lying to her, who she's been lying to, who somehow, despite everything, has become the person she thinks about every morning when she wakes up and every night before she falls asleep. I can't tell you you're wrong, she whispers. Tae-min's expression breaks open. He kisses her. Slow. Careful. Like he's been thinking about it for 10 weeks and is still half convinced it's a dream. Grace kisses him back. And for 30 seconds in her therapy office, neither of them is undercover. Neither of them is lying. They're just 2 people who found each other in the worst possible way and decided to trust anyway. When they break apart, Tae-min is smiling. Worst timing ever, he says. Terrible. What do we do? Grace looks at him. At this man who's supposed to be her target, who's supposed to be a criminal, who feels like the most honest person she's ever met. I don't know, she says. That's where we pause Grace and Taemin's story. A therapist and her patient, both undercover, both lying, both falling in love anyway. In part 2, the truth comes out. The trial begins, and one choice destroys everything they've built. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, drop a comment. What would you do in Grace's position? Thanks for watching, beautiful people. See you in part 2.